Hello and welcome to Behind the Bearcat. This is the podcast where the Northwest Missouri State University Career Services Office chats with Northwest faculty, staff, students, alumni, and friends to hear about their career journeys, how they got to where they are, and how they became Bearcats. I'm Northwest Internship Coordinator Travis Klein.
And I'm Hannah Christian, the Assistant Director of Career Services. And on today's podcast, we have Cayla Vertreese, who is a Human Services major here at Northwest. I think she's a junior. She says junior, senior. She's kind of straddling the line there. And she is the president of Active Minds here on campus. So welcome, Cayla.
Thank you. Super glad to be here.
We need a track, or I need confetti or something, because I feel like that moment gets lost. Anyway, so welcome, Cayla. Can you tell us, so as president of Active Minds, can you kind of explain to me what that organization is? It's fairly new.
Yeah, so Active Minds, like the national organization, basically, Active Minds as a whole is a mental health awareness organization. So the national organization does a lot of different programming and trying to extend different resources to places across the nation to help improve campuses, both college and high school in the U.S. in regards to mental health and mental health resources. So Active Minds at Northwest was created last year, and I guess, 2019. I'm losing track of my years. Those were created in 2019 with myself and a few others. Another person that played a big hand in that was our advisor, Monica Ziegel, and bringing that to
link to Monica.
I will do that.
Yeah. Yeah. He said that you guys should talk to her. So yeah, Monica Ziegel played a big part in helping us to bring Active Minds to Northwest, but we brought it in August of last year. And so since then, it's just been trying to lay the groundwork for and foundation for this organization on our campus. And so our focal points are fundraising, advocacy and awareness, and campaigning. So we help to campaign for better resources. For example, last year we were working on some ID and student fee campaigns. The student fee campaign that we were working on ended up proving not necessary, basically, because Student Senate ended up approving an increase of student fees for wellness services. So that was a plus for us. And then we were also working on ID campaigns to advocate to get the crisis text line, suicide hotline on the back of the student ID cards. And we didn't have to do much with that either. I work in the ID office, and so I had brought it up to my supervisor, actually, that we were working on this campaign and trying to understand what processes may go into it that we need to look into to see how we can bring that. And she just mentioned it to the person who orders IDs, and they were all for it. And so they got those ordered. And so a majority, if not all of the freshmen this year received new IDs with those hotlines on the back of them. So we're super excited.
Oh yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's very fun, but very exciting. And so we do those things. We're working on planning events to raise awareness on mental health and things like that. And just overall hoping that our presence on campus raises that awareness of the resources that we do have available, and also helps more students, kind of understand and recognize the importance of it as well. So yeah,
I would think part of the goal of that organization is destigmatizing, letting people know it's okay to ask for help. Sometimes that's really the first step, is just not being afraid to say, I need help with whatever. So that's excellent. That's definitely awesome and needed on campus. So thank you for your help with that.
Yes, absolutely. Active Minds, their slogan is actually change the conversation about mental health. So yeah, that is the idea, to basically break that stigmatization and open up that conversation, that it's not a sensitive topic that should be weird to stay away from. It is a sensitive topic, but we all should be comfortable with, asking a friend, how are you really? And going deeper into that conversation, not just surface level, to really see how people are feeling. And especially right now with the current pandemic that we're in, everyone has been impacted in some way, shape, or form. And so definitely trying to get those conversations started and making sure we're checking up on the people close to us and around us, and making sure that we're emphasizing the importance of them to take care of their mental health, and making sure that we, help them find the resources they need if they are struggling. So
Yeah, what a timing. So you were one of the founding members of Active Minds, correct?
Yes.
So in the fall of last year, maybe you were not thinking in 2020, we're going to have a huge pandemic and we're going to be a really important factor for the
No.
students on campus, right?
Not at all.
How did you, what were you thinking about as a leader in this type of organization in March when everybody went away for spring break and then kind of everything broke out? So talk to me about maybe how you processed that. Excuse me. How you, like, what did you do for yourself? I mean, I know for all of us, like, it was a stressful time. So talk me through that.
Yeah, absolutely. So whenever the pandemic hit, there was a lot of emotions, I think, for everyone, including myself. A lot of it was not truly understanding the impact that it was going to have on our lives at the time. You know, we started hearing things about shutdowns and what have you. And it didn't really register at that point. I was planning to stay over the summer in Maryville anyways, because I take summer classes. I took 4 summer classes this past summer, actually. I work on campus in the student affairs office. So I usually do that. And I have an apartment off campus. So whenever things started shutting down, you know, the school closed, things like that, it was kind of a shock because I was like, wait, is this all happening? But honestly, for me, I felt like it was needed, and it kind of forced me to slow down because there was a lot of things going on at that point in time. People were trying to rush into a lot of different things and throw a lot of things together last minute, I feel like, during that time. And with the current pandemic that was emerging to our area at that time, we weren't really sure where to go about it. So I was partially stressed because I wasn't sure if these things were going to be even possible. And so I was trying to come up with alternatives and things like that. And then once everything got canceled and everyone just was kind of like, well, we'll figure it out later. And then we were all finally for once focused on ourselves and trying to just figure out how we're going to get through day by day with, you know, being isolated from people. That was something that kind of helped me in a way take a step back and realize I don't have to plan for every little thing in the future right now. You know, I was forced to take it day by day after that. And so then that's when I really started focusing more on like interpersonal connections in those relationships. I started seeing a lot of things where it was talking about people who, stories that broke my heart, like when students who had to stay home and could no longer go to school, and how the cases were going down that were being reported for sexual abuse, child abuse, things like that. Not because those things had actually went down, but because people were in their house and they didn't have anywhere to go and no one to report it to. That was really hard. And so starting to recognize those things and starting to recognize, hey, maybe I was okay the whole time when we were in isolation. I didn't really struggle too terribly much because I have a great support system, but understanding that that wasn't the case for everyone. I took initiative to try and reach out, you know, specifically to a lot of my friends and to Active Minds members that I knew maybe dealing with things, or just to check in on them in general, sending messages in our group chat and whatnot, and just trying to get a general consensus of how people were feeling and what people were dealing with and how things were going was really my focal point at that time. But then, you know, with everything, the racial tension in the nation right now and all of that came to light, there was a lot of other things that I had to focus on as well in that regard. And so trying to advocate for racial equality and things of that nature, and the mental health of BIPOC students and staff and just people not even related to Northwest, but just in general, started to be my focal point a little bit more too. And I'm trying to understand for myself that I needed to take a step back because I wasn't in the mental, I wasn't in the right emotional state to take on so much from others because I was dealing with a lot myself. And so that's when I started to look at different, listen to different, that's where I got into podcasts and things like that and really started to dig deep within myself to kind of do some soul searching and build my emotional intelligence to be able to continue on. Because I knew at some point we would be back here and things would take back off and I would be expected to do all these things. And without addressing that first, I knew I wouldn't be able to be successful in that. So I did take a step back a little bit to try and figure out, okay, how can I be okay to go into this next year? Because we had made so much progress over our first year, to make sure that that momentum keeps going and I'm being, you know, the best resource I can be for my peers, but also so we have Active Minds set up in a great way. So we had a few different meetings with the exec board and whatnot to try and plan. It was really difficult because we hadn't gotten too much direction yet on what things were going to look like when we got back in the fall. So trying to plan events and whatnot while really not knowing what the expectations or mitigation measures would be was difficult. But once we did finally get those, we started to plan events and trying right now to focus on inclusivity of everyone, including not just people on campus, but also people in quarantine. So for example, with our meetings, one of the things that we thought about was, okay, we want to have in-person meetings because we want to have that face-to-face interaction, obviously, but also we don't want the people that are in quarantine or isolation to feel left out. So how do we provide an event that everyone can participate in? And so we're still exploring some of those options. We did opt with the rise in cases at the beginning of the school year to go to virtual for our first 2 meetings, at least for right now. But we're hoping in the future, as we go along in the semester and hopefully things start to improve a little bit in regards to the cases, that we'll be able to have, you know, some more in-person events, but we'll still try and keep that virtual aspect to keep those and quarantine included, because I think some of that is forgotten. I know I've had a lot of professors who have been like, you know, we'll record the lecture, send it out for those in quarantine or whatever, but, you know, not maybe thinking about the fact that those students are at home all day, can't go anywhere, can't do anything. So as much as they typically may dread going to class, they may be actually wanting you to allow them to do that because they don't have anything else to do at this point, like literally. So I'm just trying to think about those aspects and whatnot and trying to make sure everyone feels included and trying to do our best to reach out to people and extend those resources. I know right now we're working on putting together a college self-care survival guide. And we had collected tips and tricks, I guess, from members of the things that they do for their self-care. And then at the end, we're also going to include the different resources we have available through the school and just in general. And so just trying to get those different resources out there so people know, because a lot of people do feel like they're on their own. And so we're trying to, if you do feel that way or you can't go out of your house, these are the things that you have, and you do still have these resources available.
So I had
a loaded answer. Sorry.
That's great though. I just got back from university seminar and we were talking about getting involved in organizations, and a lot of them mentioned, you know, if I'm in quarantine and I can't go to the org fair and I look them up on Bearcat link and it doesn't say anything about where they're having meetings, how can they get to your meeting? How can they find out how to get to a meeting if you're having them on Zoom and they want to be participating? How do they discover that?
Yeah, so I actually was talking about Travis with this earlier, but I'm a peer advisor for a university seminar. So this is a question that I was asked by a few different people, and I actually do have a few freshmen in my university seminar that were interested in Active Minds.
Some in mind, like a lot of them in mind are very interested. So
awesome. Yeah, so basically what I've been saying is, you know, if the information is not updated on Bearcat link quite yet, which Active Minds page I know is updated, should be pretty much 100%. They were trying to work on some kinks and whatnot, but if those pages are not updated because Bearcat link completely changed to a new platform this year, then what they can do is to email the OSI, and it's just osi@nwmissouri.edu, and they can reach out and say, hey, I'm interested in this organization. I didn't find their contact information on Bearcat link. Would you be able to provide me the contact information for the president or whatever of that organization? I think that's what I've been telling my university seminar students as well, because I think that's really all that we can do in this moment. I know, you know, there are a lot of, you know, organizations are trying to get those things updated and whatnot, and a lot of organizations may have social medias, but their social media tag, I don't know what they're called, their names on social media basically, may not be recognizable, or they may not know specifically what to type in to find them. So email the OSI and they'd be more than willing to give you that information so you can get in contact with them. But for Active Minds specifically, it's just activeminds@nwmissouri.edu, and we have multiple different social medias that are on Bearcat link too. So
awesome. Perfect. Let's back up. Let's go back into the Cayla story. What was your first job ever, Cayla? Like you got paid to do. So not like you were working for your parents, but like your first real job.
So my first real job, so growing up my entire life, I was an athlete. And so in high school, I was a 3-sport athlete, track, softball, basketball. So I didn't have much time to work. And I was fortunate enough to not have to work. And that was my parents kind of always like, that's your job, your sports and your
school.
And your school. Yeah. And so my senior year, I was interested in this program that we called the Supervised Business Experience. Supervised Business Experience, I think is what it's called. And I went to Lee Summit West High School in Lee Summit, Missouri. And so that was a program basically where a couple hours out of your day or 1 hour out of your day or so, you can work in the front offices at the school, and you could get paid for that. And you could also earn credit for that. And so obviously that was something I was really interested in, but my dad was actually a little bit hesitant about allowing me to do that because he was worried that I wouldn't be able to balance it with my busy schedule of being in 3 varsity sports, and then also being involved in other organizations on my high school campus, and then also being in classes. And I took a few advanced courses as well. So was just worried about that workload, but I was super, super pumped and super excited for it because I knew that I had a passion for mental health. And one of those job opportunities was in the counseling center at my school. And so I was like, I have to get this experience. So I applied, got the job. And so here I was. And so my first official job where I got paid and was on payroll or whatever was an office assistant for the counseling center at my high school. And so I worked there and got to kind of see the behind the scenes of what truly goes on a high school campus in regards to counseling and things like that. I originally had thought that I wanted to be a school counselor at one point until I got into that job. And the reason behind it isn't because I didn't think that I would enjoy being a school counselor. The reason behind it is because at present moment, and I say this because I grew up in education, basically. I come from a long line of teachers. I was a teacher's kid growing up. So I've seen the behind the scenes of education, and education seriously, it needs some work in so many different areas. And a big one is funding for sure, but in so many different areas. And so something that I recognized was that a lot of the times the counselors loved to interact with their students, connect with the students. That's what they got the job for. But a lot of the times they couldn't do that as often as they wanted to because they're overloaded with paperwork and things like that, and things that weren't even related to the job that they were supposed to be doing, but things that just kind of get put on the plate because they don't have other people to do it, or they don't have the money to hire another position solely for this, even though that's what should happen. And so that's kind of why I decided, you know what, maybe that's not the route I want to go. And so I've started to explore different options of what I can do. And I know every job is going to come with, extra things that you may not have signed up for. Paperwork is inevitable in almost every job, obviously, but
podcasting.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I'm just looking for something that's just a little bit different. And so I'm not sure what that is yet, but I'm still exploring. But I would definitely say I have been extremely lucky with the jobs that I've had. Just great experiences and really good, like, hands-on work, like office work. I feel very confident in my customer service skills because, I've answered phone calls from parents and had to interact with them, emails, spreadsheets, all of that. Like, I feel like I know office secretarial type work like the back of my hand. And so when I got to college, and it was actually a little bit before I got to college, a few weeks before I applied for on-campus jobs. And it was, again, the same situation. My dad was a little bit nervous of me getting into a job with, going to a new school and that transition, and college in general, just like not sure how I would handle that, especially with knowing that I had been dealing with mental health issues of my own for the past few years, and just wasn't sure how that was going to go when I'm, fully on my own for once and don't really know many people and just have all this freedom, which I didn't used to have because I was a 3-sport athlete, and now I'm coming to college, don't know anyone, don't know anything, and not playing sports, so I don't have that immediate end basically that a lot of athletes tend to have because they come to practices before school starts and build that bond with their teammates. But I was able to get a job in the student affairs office, and I do very similar work to what I did back in the counseling center, and I absolutely love it. Like, obviously there's downs to every job, but I have been extremely lucky in the jobs I've had, and they have definitely developed my character and my confidence for sure over the past few years.
So what made you decide to come to Northwest? How did you make that decision?
So actually it was when I was working in the counseling center in my high school. So I was very close to my counselor. And so we were talking at one point. I can't remember exactly how the conversation went, but basically like every now and then, and whenever I was working, I may go back to her office and talk to her for a little bit. Or not when I was working, like after I was working or right before I started working. And we were trying to narrow down my colleges, and my top 2 were actually Jacksonville University and Howard. So on the East Coast, like not even anywhere remotely close to Missouri. My sister actually went to University of Tampa and graduated in there in 2018. And then my dad went to, I don't know why I'm blanking on it, but he went to a school in Florida as well. So we're all from Missouri. We all live in Missouri our whole life, but they went to Florida, and I was like, I want to go out of the state for college too, So I was looking over there, but then my high school counselor, she actually is alumni of Northwest. And so she was like, we have to have many conversations of what I was looking for in a school, not too big, but not too small, not too big of class sizes, and specifically good for the major that I was looking at and things of that nature. And so she was like, just look at Northwest. And I was like, I'm not going anywhere closer than 5 hours away from my home. Like, I'm not, the closest I was looking at was SEMO, Southeastern Missouri State or whatever. And
that's a long ways away from Lee's Summit.
Opposite corners of the
yeah,
state.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like I was not even thinking about here. And so I was like, no, absolutely not. And then she was like, please just go and listen to the recruiter that's coming to visit our school. If you hate it, like you don't have to do it, but at least go there and listen. So I'm like, you know what, fine. Come to find out, the recruiter, so she went to go find out when the recruiter was coming, and she was coming that day, like in a couple hours. And so I was like, well, I guess here it is. So the recruiter came, we signed me up for to sit in on that session. And I don't even remember the name of her, but she was super sweet, super nice. And everything that she told me about Northwest was exactly what I was looking for in a school. And the reason why I wasn't 100% on those, my top 2 schools, Jacksonville and Howard, was because they all had almost everything I wanted, but there was like a little bit of something that they were missing. And so I had known that everyone had talked about that feeling, you get like when you just know. I was like, maybe I'm just not going to get that, because I also know some people just don't. But whenever I sat there and listened to her talk about Northwest and all the things that it had to offer, including cost, which was a big reason why I chose Northwest, I was sold. I hadn't even visited the school. And like I said, I was literally not even trying to be closer than 5 hours away from my home, which now I'm 2 hours. But I was like, this is where I'm going. Like, and so that's basically what happened. I did end up visiting a few months later and, fell even more in love with it. And that was that. I was scheduled to, we were starting to plan fights within the next month or so to go and visit those other colleges. And I just like scrapped them, like didn't go. And I had looked at a few other colleges, but I came to Northwest, and it was a very rash, like quick, impulsive decision almost. And I am not one for impulsive quick decisions. Like I am very much a perfectionist, very much an overthinker, but this one I feel like I just kind of knew. I felt like this was the place that I was going to be able to thrive, and I felt like I did make the right decision. There's been ups and downs for sure, but the growth that I've had here and the experiences that I've had here, I truly don't feel like I would have gotten in another university, just because of how unique the campus is. in regard to its size and the people that are here and in the area that it's in all of those things. Yeah, I'm very glad that I made this decision, because I feel like it truly has developed me into the person I am right now, and I'm sure the person that I'll be in the future.
So you mentioned looking for the program. So was human services, was that the program you were looking for, or
So,
did you
no,
start something else and then switch to this?
Yeah, so I actually came in as a psych major. And so as a psych major, I came in and my minors were random. They were like coaching and like something else that was super random too. And so then as I started to get a little bit more, as I started to learn a little bit more about the different majors and things that were offered, I realized, and also what I could do with a psychology degree. I looked a lot at, different things I can do, different jobs you could do. I recognized that I probably needed to go on to get my master's or PhD with a psychology degree to really do much. And so then I was like, ugh, I'm good at school, but I don't like school. And so I know that I could go on to do my master's or do a PhD and be fine. But I just can't even fathom or think about that right now, just because I'm so done with school, like so over it. And so I ended up kind of looking into my different options of, okay, what can I do that's still similar to this field, but is a little bit broader, and I can do more with a bachelor's degree until I decide truly if I want to go forward and get my master's. Because that's also a big decision. If I'm going to get my master's, I'm going to have to, put out some money for that. And I want to make sure that's a decision that I'm sure that I want to make. And so I switched my major to human services because that gives me a broader range of things I can do with just a bachelor's degree. And I put my minor as psychology. Actually, my minor was originally child and family studies. And then I was like, I don't know if that's what I want to do. And so then I changed it to psychology. And now I'm sticking with that. And that's what I'll graduate with next December. But yeah, so at this point, I know that there are careers that I may want to go into as a human services major that I may need my master's for, but since I'm not 100% sure on the specific career that I'm looking for, and since I still want to get a little bit more experience in the field to understand what more experience or education I do need, that's kind of what I've stuck with now. And so, yeah, and I absolutely love it, love the classes. I'm almost completely finished with all my core classes. I think I just have two more or one more. Actually, I just have one more, and then I'm only doing major and minor classes right now, and then I'll graduate December next year. After this year, I only have 2 classes left, so I'm just taking them online my last semester. But yeah,
Wow.
I've been rushing. I said I hate school. I mean it. I will work hard. I care about my grades just because I have scholarships and whatnot. And as a teacher's kid, I was raised really, really well in regards to education and understanding how to do those things, I guess, and navigate those systems well. But I don't like it. Like I said, I took 4 classes this summer. It wasn't fun for sure, but I knew that it was a way to get me out of school faster. And as the faster I can get out, the better. And people keep telling me, slow down, like you wanna enjoy these years. And I understand that. But I just can't. Just staying here just to stay in school longer is just not ideal for Cayla. Like that is just not the road that I want to take, just personally. So I am trying to get out of here as fast as possible. As much as I love some of the people here, as much as I love some of the things I'm doing, I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to find the next steps and explore new experiences.
Self-awareness is the key there. Know yourself. If you're 100% sure about that, then you just run the race that you're running.
Yeah.
So my next question is, so has mental health always been kind of an area of interest of yours, or how have you developed an interest in maybe this arena? Because I really feel like you said, with that mental health, with the sports background, like you have like this beautiful intersection of like several different skills and a path that really is unique and really, I think, like you said, super needed in a time of a global pandemic, right? So like your skill sets kind of just popped you up into this really useful, pragmatically helpful, service-oriented position. So talk to me about, mental health and how you became interested in that.
Yeah. So, no, like in elementary school and stuff like that, like, no, I wasn't focused on mental health a lot. I didn't I don't even know if that's really a term that I heard very often, or I even talked about myself very often. And even in middle school, my parents got divorced while I was in 5th grade. And so with that, there was a lot of emotions that came with that experience for me. But I've always been the peacemaker in my family. So I always have tried to hold it together as best as possible, because I want to check on, the others around me that are maybe struggling. I also know that, if I'm upset, I know that the impact that has on my parents. And so I kind of, I guess, tried to suppress a lot of those emotions. But as I got into high school, I was super involved. I was switching, because once my parents got divorced, we switched back and forth every Sunday from house to house. And so when I got into high school, my schedule started to pick up more. That just wasn't working for Cayla. There was just a lot of emotions that started to surface that I had pushed down for so long, and they kind of started to show in more outbursts. And so as I was going through puberty and in that teenage stage of that being so-called normal, at first they didn't really notice. They thought I was just really acting out. And when I say acting out, I mean like having an attitude, or like talking back. Nothing crazy. I wasn't like a crazy, like terrible child or anything like that, but just doing things that out of the norm of what I would typically do. At first they would pass off as, okay, she's just being a dramatic teenager. But then my mom really took notice to it and started to notice, okay, these are more than just temper tantrums, fits, whatever, teenage. She's really dealing with something. Like, this is how she's expressing it, and we need to have her go talk to someone. So she was actually the one that got me into talk with a counselor at first. And, they started to put me on, and I was diagnosed with depression. And they started to put me on medication to help that. And so that's when I started really getting in tune with mental health and understanding that. And once I started to kind of look at these feelings, I've always been one that's super open, and I try to be as vulnerable as possible with the people that I know, so they feel comfortable with me, I guess. And so I had, different conversations with my friends and family, and understanding this surfaced a lot of emotions for them, and this surfaced a lot of conversations for each other. We were able to talk about, oh, they're having these same experiences that I am. Like, I'm not just crazy, weird, stupid, whatever. I am actually experiencing something that's real and that other people are experiencing too. Why aren't we talking about this more? Like, I did not understand that. And it definitely has picked up more in college as I've, taken different classes that relate to this and kind of have learned more about myself and about others. But yeah, so I guess my interest in it kind of took off whenever I had that personal connection. I feel like that's something very similar for lots of people in this field as well. They had some kind of personal connection, whether that's themselves or a close family member, that they realized, okay, why isn't this being talked about more? We want to raise awareness, and we want to get people to understand, there are things that are available to help you. You just have to, know the right people. And we're hoping, and I think, or at least this is my hope, for the entire field of mental health, is that, as time goes on, these things become not just something that you have to know the right person who knows those resources. This becomes a widely known and talked about topic, because I think that we all need this information. Like, we all know to call 911 when we're having some kind of medical emergency or something, but we all don't know there's a suicide hotline if you're thinking about killing yourself. And those are the things that we need to talk about and spread more awareness on, is those resources that are available. Because just as I always say, your mental health is just as important as your physical health. And once we start preaching that, I think that's when we'll really see a change in our world in general. Because I feel like I don't want to say all the issues stem from people being mentally unstable, but I think that being more emotionally intelligent and having a higher awareness for emotions and mental health and things of that nature, it does make you more empathetic to people, and it does make you more understanding of people. You're able to understand, okay, maybe this person isn't being rude to me because they hate me. Maybe this person is being rude to me because this is how they're expressing they're having a bad day, and trying to turn that away from personal attacks and understanding maybe it's just something that's going on in their life that you have no idea about. Things like that, and understanding that not everyone knows the resources that are available to have healthy coping skills, so they're not having outbursts in that way where they're taking it out on someone that is unrelated to. So being able to understand that and spread more awareness on that across the entire world, I think we'll start to see a positive improvement in our world, because there's just so much darkness and negativity, especially lately, that I feel like goes on. And, you know, although that's inevitable in some aspects, and, you know, there's always going to be bad days, there's always going to be bad people, but I feel like there definitely is some kind of potential for growth in those areas with more awareness about mental health.
Awesome. I'm going to kind of like make a little bit of a U-turn here back to Bearcat land. And I want to know what you think it means to be a Bearcat.
So I've been thinking about this question a little bit, and as someone who kind of came here on a whim, was like, okay, this is where I need to be. The reason why, whenever I got on campus, of why I was like, okay, no, this is definitely my place, this is where I'm going to feel at home, away from home, was the family aspect of it. Every single person that I encountered whenever I was here, whenever I made my first visit to campus, was super kind, super welcoming. And so I assumed that would be the same experience that I had whenever I came onto campus. And, you know, although, like I said, there's bad experiences everywhere, there's bad days everywhere, for the most part, my experiences have been extremely positive, and the people that I've been able to align myself with, and the people that I've become close with here, have been that family away from home for me. Everyone is willing to go the extra mile for you if you need, and it's just a matter of talking to them and saying, hey, this is what's going on. You know, what do you think I can do, or do you have any advice, or can you help me anyway? Everyone's more than willing to drop everything and help you right then and there. And that's huge to me, because I think of that more as putting the humanity back in human. I like to say that a lot. A lot of places were so, and obviously sometimes that's still something that we all need to work on. That's still something that I personally need to work on sometimes. But a lot of times we're just go and forget to focus on those interpersonal connections that I was talking about earlier. And I feel like people here, or at least the people that I've aligned myself with, truly value and care about those things in the same way that I do. And so I guess, in short, being a Bearcat to me is being human, and being that, and bringing that humanity piece back to being a human, and being, and caring about those same values of interpersonal connections, and caring about those same values of caring for your neighbor, because, you know, we're all in college, we're all away from home, or, you know, staff members, they're all here because they have some kind of passion of working with students and helping students in higher education, right? And so understanding that, and understanding basically that everyone has a very similar purpose as to why they came, has helped me to understand that, you know, people truly care about me, and people truly love me here. And so, as much as I am in a rush to get out of here and leave, there's so many people that I'm going to definitely, one, stay in connection with after I leave here, but also miss and think about on a daily, and reminisce on the memories and things that we've made. I'm going to miss working at the job that I work at right now. My supervisor, Selena, is literally the best person ever. And everyone in that office in general, like my coworkers, and then all the full-time staff members in that office, are just amazing, and we've had the best times ever. And so, and they, like I said, they bring that humanity piece back into being a human. You know, we had one of our office meetings, we had puppies, newborn puppies that we had, and that was our meeting, and it was just trying to bring that focus back to just enjoying one another for once, you know, taking a step back from work. Not everything has to be serious all the time, and realizing we're all human. Yes, we have things that we need to do, but definitely understanding that sometimes those things need to take a back burner, and we need to check on each other. And with bringing active minds to campus, I realized that people are willing to have those conversations, and people are interested in those. They just weren't sure, I guess, where to start looking, or weren't sure that others were. But once we started to have these conversations, everybody is super open and kind, and wants that humanity piece brought in too. And so, yeah.
I think that's where, so you talked about always being very open, honestly. So part of leadership, I think sometimes is being willing to be the person who's going to take that first step forward and say, hey, I'll be open about this. Right. And so it's so, I love it so much that you're like, hey, I'm willing to be open and out there. And that's all that it takes to build a whole bedrock of support for the whole rest of campus. And I would add staff and faculty included. Like, this is not just about students' mental health or young people's mental health. I mean, we got some real issues too.
No, absolutely. And I think that's another thing is I was actually reading this, I think it was an article or something like that the other day, and talking about educational traumas. And one of them was in regards to mental health and having professors tell students to take care of their mental health when they're not practicing that themselves. And it's like, everyone should be taking care of themselves. If a professor needs a day off because they're having a mental health crisis, or, they had something go on at their home or whatever, they should be able to do that just the same as a student should be able to do that, because again, like I said before, mental health is just as important as your physical health, but we look down upon when someone takes a day off because they just emotionally cannot do it, whether they're, have actual mental illness and they're having an episode of some sort, or, they had a family member, a close family member, a friend die, and, they maybe don't even want to talk about that. They don't want to talk to anyone about that, but they just need a day to regroup and then, come back the next day. And those aren't necessarily looked at as the same as if someone were to get sick and they needed to stay home. And so I feel like if we kind of hold each other accountable to that more, and of practicing self-care, and, teachers preaching, this, but also doing it for themselves, and staff members all alike, I think that's very, very important. And that's actually one of the campaigns that I know we're going to be working on this semester, and that Active Minds has recently released, like the national organization, because they've released 4 new campaigns because of the current racial climate in the United States. And so they're wanting to focus more on how they can help BIPOC students in regards to mental health. And so one of those is adding mental health resources to syllabi that professors give out. And that's definitely something, we have things like accommodations. I've had syllabi that they have, UPD resources and academic resources, but that mental health aspect is often forgotten. A lot of students come in not knowing that. And yes, we are taught it in university seminar, but then, you get to your junior year and you've forgotten, or there's been resources added on that you may have no idea about. And so that simple communication of those things, or even, making a point at least twice a semester to send out a wellness event that's going on or something like that, to really bring that importance back to, not back, it really hasn't been important for a while, but to bring that importance of mental health to the forefront, I think is huge. And I think that's something that we'll start to see as time goes on, and as people become more aware of the importance of mental health and mental health awareness. But yeah, I would definitely agree that mental health is important for all people, no matter the age, race, side, whatever, like all people, it's important for to take care of your mental health and practice self-care daily.
If anybody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to get a hold of you? Email? Social?
You can get
Pigeon?
a hold of me in so many different ways. You can reach me through email. You can email my email. If you just type it in with your university email, it should pop up. You can reach out to Active Minds at nwmissouri.edu, and that'll I get those emails shipped off to my email anyway. So either way, you'll get in touch with me that way. You can reach out to my socials, Cayla Vertreese. I think if you type that into Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, I think it'll pop up for any of those. And I'm also in the student affairs office at least 15 hours a week. So
you could just walk in and say, hey.
Exactly. Say, hey, what's up? Yeah, I'm all over the place usually. So you can find me, but if you ever have issues finding me, then definitely reach out to, like for example, Monica Ziegel's our advisor. She'll help you get in contact with me. But there's multiple ways, and those ones I just listed. But
you have any tips or tricks or final wisdom? This is now your 5 minutes of extemporaneous exhortation. What you have to put out in the world.
So, I guess something that I've been telling myself a lot lately, and this is a very basic general quote, but it's something that I've been living by, is that every storm runs out of rain. Right now, it seems like there's no end to this, right? And it seems like we're just trucking along day by day, no end in sight. I don't really know what to do. Everyone's sad. And it's just a really gloomy vibe, I feel like, in the air. But I keep telling myself that and keep pushing forward and keep telling myself that I survived 100 of my worst days so far. So I want everyone to kind of resonate with that a little bit and truly think deeper about what that feels like and what that looks like. Because I know whenever I get in those dark times and when I get into those thoughts of intrusive thoughts and overthinking and whatnot, I have to put myself back to the last time that I was feeling like I couldn't go forward anymore, that I was feeling that I couldn't deal with the heartbreak, the hurt, the emotions that I was dealing with anymore. I forced myself to go back to that situation. And if I can't remember it, then that's great. But if I can, I try and figure out what the timeline is since that last happened. And then I try and think of all the good things or growth that I've experienced since that last time. And that has helped me push forward each and every day. That I'm having those terrible, terrible days where I feel like it's just the worst day ever. Life couldn't get any worse than that. I force myself to go back and look at the positives. And as cliche and as corny as it may seem, as cliche and as corny as it is, whenever teachers say, "What good things happened to you this week?" and it's been the worst week ever. Your dog died. You got an F on the class. You tested positive for COVID. Just the worst week ever. It seems really cliche, but when you force yourself to step back and look at those positives, you're like, okay, yeah, today sucks. Today definitely sucks. This week sucks. This month sucks. Honestly, 2020 sucks. But I've had X, Y, and Z happen since the last time that I said everything sucked. And so I'll get through this and you will get through this. And, like I said, every storm runs out of rain. And on those days that you're feeling, and I just had a friend who was like, I'm not feeling it. I'm not trying to do anything, whatever. And I'm like, you know what? That's fine. Take today, do absolutely nothing, lay in your bed, be sad. Tomorrow, I don't care how you're feeling. I don't care how sad you're feeling. It's okay that you're still feeling sad, but get your little booty up and make your bed, take a shower, whatever. And if that's the most that you do for that day, I am so proud of you, and that's okay. But also, you can't force yourself into that routine either. You can be sad. Just know that although today, may not be the best day, or it may be your best day, just know the next time a bad day does come around, it's not the end. Every storm runs out of rain, and you have the strength to make it this long, so you have the strength to keep pushing forward. And there are resources available if you are feeling alone and you feel like you can't do it anymore. So
awesome. Thank you so much, Cayla. We really appreciated having you on.
Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. I really appreciated it.
Well, and thank you for all you do for Northwest too. I mean, Active Minds, I really think that an organization like that is super necessary right now with, as much before pandemic and especially after. So thank you for all your service, not just to the students of Northwest, but to the whole Bearcat family. We appreciate that very much. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Well, that'll do it for another episode of Behind the Bearcat, and we'll talk to you next time. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed that episode. Don't forget to follow on your podcast platform of choice and on YouTube. Also, click the little notification bell on YouTube so you never miss an upload. And you can follow us on social media on Twitter, Instagram, and we have a LinkedIn page.